Hi, this is your instructor, Mary Taylor, with her very first ever screen video recording. So I'm going to attempt to walk you through using Excel to create a data table from which you can create a chart. So here you go. So if you look at the screen right now, you can see I've opened up just a blank Excel workbook, and I put it on the left side of my screen, and on the right side of my screen I have the data I have collected from a preference assessment. So the first thing I want to do is I want to create a data table. So I have, if you take a look at my my preference assessment form, I was assessing JP, and I was assessing him on snacks and such, which, by the way, Joe, sorry, I know these are terrible choices, but here we go. So I'm coming over to Excel, and I'm just clicking somewhere in the center of the document because I never like to be at the very top, and I just say JP's preferences for snack items. So I just remember what my table is about. So now I'm going to go ahead and create columns for my. So the first column is going to be my items, all right? And you can see I have popcorn, craisins, grapes, M&Ms, etc. So I'm just going to go ahead and call that the items column. And per our data sheet, we are going to be scoring preferences if the individual either approached or consumed or both the item. And obviously a consume is kind of an approach plus consume, but so I'm going to make an approach only column and a consume column. Oops, I could try spelling consume correctly. And then I'm going to call this column total, because we remember from the preference assessment protocol, I'm going to just put this over here so we remember, that the formula for computing our preference is approach plus, let me do that, can't see nice, consume, and that total is going to be divided. So to make that division simple, I need to my underline. What the heck? Where I can't remember what I did with that. Oh, here we go. I'm just going to go over here, and I'm just going to say, I didn't really want that. I'm just going over here. This is just more for me. I'm being a little obsessive compulsive. And so I'm clicking this, and I am using the underline because that denotes division for those of us who teach math. Approach, consume, and it's divided by the total possible choice options. So in my case, if you look over here, I had 6 items, which means if you take item 1, popcorn, item 1 was paired to item 2, and then 3, and 4, and 5, and 6, which means that each item has 5 possible opportunities to be chosen. So the divisor is choice opportunities. So let's just remember that that's our formula. So I'm going to need to, at some point, add approaches and consume to find out what this numerator is. And then I'm going to have to divide it by choice opportunities. Okay, and so we have our items, approach, or consumer total. And then I'm going to put one last column, and it's going to be percent chosen. Let's not use the word chosen. Let's say selected. I like that word better. I like to spell it right. And we might get there eventually. There we go. Or not. There we go. Okay, so now that I have my columns, I know that I can start adding the data that I have collected. So my items include, the first item was popcorn. Whoa, okay, I'm off. Let me try that again. Popcorn. The next item was craisins. Sorry, Joe. Processed food. The next is grapes. I'm back in the good again. The next is the evil M&Ms. followed by animal crackers, my fave. Sad. And finally, sun chips. Now, if I'm bothered by the fact that, well, my words are moving into the next column, I can just click on this column, enlarge it, and now I don't have to worry about that anymore. The other thing you can do, if you really want to look at this as a table and it's sort of bothering you, I'm noticing my percent selected, I'm going to make that a little bigger too, that I want to really see it as a table, I can select this whole area and I can go up here to this borders box. Now it looks like a table. It just makes it easier to see. I can also just decide I just want to see things more clearly, so I want to center everything, and I'm just I'm just doing little formatting things that for me make it easier to see, but you don't have to worry about, because nothing that I just did right now has anything to do with your assignment. What's more important is getting the data in. So now that I have the data, okay, so now popcorn. Well, popcorn, I'm going to actually go ahead and just number these because that will help us use the sheet. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So now if I go back over to my form, I don't know why I went. Item number 1 was popcorn, okay? And item number 2 was craisins. So that's why I numbered them, just so I could be clear. So let's look at item number 1, popcorn. For item number 1, it only shows up in this first row because it's the first pairing set. And so I look that number 1 was here. It was consumed. In this one, it wasn't consumed. Okay, so nothing for it. Number 1 was consumed again and again and again. There were no approaches in this column, in this row, only consumes, and there was a total of 1, 2, 3, 4 consumes. So for popcorn, I'm going to put that the approach was 0 and the consume was 4. All right, we're not going to worry about total or percent selected right now. Right now, we're just going to get the data inside the table. So for craisins, I look at craisins, which was item number 2. Now you have to remember, craisins had, number 2 had 1 opportunity up here, was not selected, so I have nothing to count. It wasn't selected here. Oh, look, it looks like there was an approach for craisins. So that was 1 approach. Here, something else was approached. And in this possible pairing, we got the N, which means there was no response. So for craisins, we had 1 approach, and we had 0 consumes. Looking at grapes, grapes number 3, so I need to check. Oh, look up here. Grapes was chosen 1 time when it was assessed against item 1. Oh, it was actually not just chosen, it was consumed. And it was also consumed when paired against craisins. And now I go to, it was consumed against item number 4, which was M&Ms. Again, a number 5 against animal crackers. And finally, last time against sun chips. So it looks like grapes was consumed 5 times. I'll go right to that. And it was never approached, it was just always consumed. So I'll just put a 0 in that column. M&Ms. So M&Ms is item number 4, so I need to check. So item number 4, in the first row, nothing. Second row, nothing. Third row, nothing. Fourth row, nothing here. Nothing here. So M&Ms, sorry Mars Company, your product is failing. 0, 0, no approaches, no consumes. Animal crackers, which is number 5. I look at number 5 and I see nothing in the first row. Oh, look, in the second row we have 1 approach. In the third row, nothing. Fourth row, oh, look, another approach. So we're up to 2 approaches. And we look in the 5th row, which is the number 5 animal crackers row, we had 1 consume. So for animal crackers, we had 2 approaches and 1 consume. Finally, our sun chips, which is item number 6. Looking in the first row, 6 was not selected. Second row, not selected. Third row, not selected. Fourth row, not selected. Fifth row, not selected. And notice sun chips actually doesn't really have any opportunities in this last row because it's already been paired against everything. And the only thing number 6 would be compare it against at this point would be if we had had larger than 6 items. So that row's blank. So Sun Chips, once again, gets a 0, 0. So 0, tab over to 0. Okay, now we're in our total column. You have 2 choices. You folks are graduate students. I think you can do the math. You can just go ahead and add these totals. 0 plus 4 is 4. Please excuse the dog. I have no control. Yes, I'm a behavior analyst, but I only do people. I apparently don't do dogs very well. Okay, next row. 1 and 0 is 1, and so on. It's the easiest way. I could show you a formula for this, but really, quite frankly, we're just adding. So 2 approaches, 1 consume. That was 3 total, and 0. Okay. Now you want to change this to percent. This is where using a formula is going to be super helpful. So I'm going to show you real quick how to set up a formula. And this is a good skill to know because being able to use formulas on Excel is a valuable tool. I use it all the time. I'm not kidding. I use it quite a bit in my work. So first of all, anytime you want to use a formula with Excel, you need to start with the equal sign. So I'm going to make a note right here. Okay. If you want to create a formula on Excel, you could also use Sheets, but start with an equals. Let's make sure I get that right. Okay, so I go to the box, I click on equals. Now that I've done that, what you don't know is that Excel now understands that I'm not typing in words anymore or numbers. I'm typing in a formula. So what do I want to do here? Well, we look at the formula. We want to take the total of approach and consumes, which we've already totaled, and divide it by choice opportunities. So I can just go to my total column for popcorn and say, well, I've got the total, so I'm going to click here. Notice it comes up with E6. E6 means I've selected box E6 on my spreadsheet. It's just basically telling Excel, take whatever value is inside that box and use it for the formula. Now, back to the formula. It says I need to divide this total, so I'm going to make a slash mark because slash mark is the mathematical symbol for divide. So I'm saying take this value, divide it, and what am I going to divide it by? Well, it says choice opportunities. Well, we know that if you have a 6-item assessment, we're going to be taking that 6th item or whatever item and pairing it against the remaining items, which means it's always going to be 1 less than your total items. I have a total of 6 items, so the choice opportunities is 5. So I'm just going to go ahead and enter that 5 because that's a constant. That's not going to change. So as soon as I've got my formula in there, I press return and voila, look at that. I have a value. The formula has plugged in my 4, divided it by my choice opportunities, which is 5, and given me a value of 0.8. Now I can do that again. I can do the same thing. I can go down to the next row and I can once again use the equal sign because if you want to create a formula on Excel, you always start with an equal sign. So I click on the equal sign and then I click on the slash, which is the divide by sign. Wait, no, sorry, I said equal sign. I go to my total, then I click on my slash to divide. Can't divide unless I have a numerator. And then I, once again, just enter that constant of 5. And boom, there it goes. Now, I can keep doing this for the rest of the columns, but here's a trick, all right? If you've created a formula that is going to be the same for every row, okay? If you create, oops, nice spelling. Really create a formula that will be the same for, wow, my E is not working, for my E is really not working. Every subsequent row, typing my E's harder, you can drag that formula down to fill the rest of the rows. Wow, this is crazy. Check out what's going on with my keyboard. So watch. Click. I'm in the box that has that formula. Oh, which by the way, look, once I clicked in this box, look up here, the formula bar, it's saying the value here might be 0.2, but what's actually typed in that box is box E7, formula, equal sign, take box E7, E7, divided by 5. So now if I click on that box and I go to this little dot that's in the bottom right-hand corner and I drag it down for the rest of the rows, boom, look at that. And just to check, if I click on this box where the value is 0.6, if I go to the formula bar, it says, hey, go to box E10 and divide that by 5, because 5 is my constant. I can keep that the same. So now I have computed. Now notice that this is not in percent format. Well, we would like it to be in percent format for our chart. So a quick and easy way, sometimes that does that. I've just inadvertently touched my mouse, so if I do that, I go back. I'm just going to go ahead to this box. I'm going to click and drag. I wasn't dropping anything down. I just clicked in the center of the box and dragged it down to select all of these. And I want to tell my Excel sheet, treat all of these values as percent. So right here I have some number format options. I can click on percent and boom, look at that. Now they're all listed as percents. So I have all my data in, and now I'm going to show you how to take these data and create a chart. So the only problem that we have is that in order to come up with percent selected, we had to do all this. We had to take our approaches and our consumes, we had to total those up, and then we were able to use those data to compute our percent selected. These columns are not necessary or even wanted in our chart. All we want in our chart is our items column and our percent selected column. So how can I tell the computer, just take those two columns? Well, here's what you do. Go to the first column that you want, so items. So I click on items, I'm going to click, I'm going to hold my mouse key down, I'm going to drag down, and I've now selected my items column. Now what I want to do is I want to hold my command key. So look at your keyboard. I can't show this to you, so you need to look and find it on your own keyboard. I hold my command key down, and while I'm holding it down, I go over to the percent selected column. I click and hold my mouse, and I drag down. And then once I've selected the whole column, I let go of both the mouse and that command key that I've been holding down. And I've just basically told my program that you're going to use the information in this column in row B and this column in row F, just this information, none of the rest of this, to create the chart. So now that I've done that, and notice, I think I told you folks in class, when I was trying to do the chart on the computer in the classroom, it's a different format. So this is a different format. This is how mine looks. So look up here and I can see that there's a nice little handy dandy charts. Remember in class, I believe that up here they didn't have something called charts, but there was an insert. And then if you went to insert, there was a subsequent selection for charts. So you're going to have to apply that knowledge. But I'm going to go ahead and connect on charts, or click on charts. And basically it comes up and I get another menu here and it's telling me like, what do I want? And so I can tell them like, choose it. So I'm over here, insert chart, it says choose a chart. So I want to choose a chart. And so when I click on that, you want a column chart, and you want the very first column chart because we basically just have one set of data. We don't need to stack anything. We don't need 3D effects or whatever. So I'm going to click on this first cluster column, and look, a chart automatically, miraculously shows up inside my document. I'm just going to move it around a little bit so it fills the page more. Whoa, I need to, so move it, and I need to make sure I've got, you notice, look here, I have, this arrow means move, and this arrow, this horizontal arrow means grow the chart. So that just makes it a little bigger and easier to see. Now, it looks like we're done, but we're not done because there's some problems with this chart. And the problems have to do with formatting. So I want to go over that with you because if you are going to use Excel to make a chart for you, you can't let it be the boss. You have to be the boss, and you have to tell how you want your chart to look. So there's several problems with this chart. So the first problem to me that really stands out is the title. The title of your chart should tell anybody looking at it, what am I looking at? And right now, percent selected just doesn't make sense, all right? So if I click on my box, I can just go ahead, select that percent selected, and now I can type over it. And I'm going to say, this was JP's preference, that E, I have to check this out, preference, come on E, for snack items. Boy, I'm like really pushing on my E these days. Okay, now at least anybody who looks at this chart can say, what the heck are they looking at? Now they know. Now another problem that sort of stands out is I see that I have a legend that's percent selected. I'm clicking on that right now. Legends are important when you have more than one set of data on the chart. So people will know, this was data that was collected on, one day or another day, or this was pre or post data, but we just have one set of data. If your legend is only coming up with one item, you don't need your legend. So I've clicked on the legend, and I'm just going to hit the delete key, and it's gone because I don't need it. I've already told people with my title what this chart is about. They don't need any further information, and it gives me more room. Now, another thing I'm concerned about with my chart is my scale. Notice that the scale goes from 0% to 120%. The reason for this is Excel has this sort of default option, which is whatever the highest value, and if I go to my table, I can see my highest value is 100%. Notice that it has set everything up in increments of 20%. If my highest value is 100%, Excel's default is to go to the next higher value. So the next higher value, if you're doing 20% increments, would be 120%. That's silly because you could never have 120% as an answer on this particular task. So I want to fix that. So if I go to this vertical axis, and notice as I'm moving my cursor, you see how when I'm here, I'm getting this message plot area. I'm here, I'm getting this message chart title. If I scan over here, it says vertical value axis. That tells me I can click on that and then double click, and I can now fix that. And it gives me a little menu box opens up. There's all kinds of things I can do. I can fix the scale, which is what I want to do. I can play around with the number. It's a little slow right now. There goes that window. My number set is percentage. So if for any reason your number is not coming up as percentage, if you click on number, once you go to the format the axis, you can tell it, hey, it's not just a number, it's a percentage. And so on. You can play around with these options, but I'm going to go to scale. And right now, these blue check boxes tell me that these are the auto features. This is what we automatically do without asking for your permission. Well, they automatically set the maximum value at 1.2. Notice it's not listed as a percent because it doesn't care what your number formatting is. It's just going to take that number. It defaults to decimal. So if I want my top percent to be 100% in a decimal form, that would be 1.0. So I delete the 0.0. Notice when I did that, I don't know, prior to this, the major unit had been 20%. But as soon as I changed this maximum to 1.0, it decided to go ahead and now divide everything up by 10% increments. I liked it in 20% increments because really, quite frankly, you know, if 5 is your divisor, then all of your values are going to be in forms of 20%. So if I want to go back to 20%, I just click on that major unit. Notice, look here, this major unit is checked because it's doing auto. As soon as I click on it and I delete that one, that major unit is unchecked, because that's just saying I'm overriding it. I'm now going to give my own values. So I put in 0.2. All right, everything looks good. I click on OK. So here is my new scale. It goes from 0% to 100% with 20% increments. And this is looking a lot better. Now the other thing that I think is missing from this chart is labels for your Y and your X axes in standard, whoops, I don't know where everything went. In standard formatting, you definitely want to make sure that you label these axes. So I know it might seem obvious because, duh, we've got percent signs here, and duh, they've listed everything. But just to go through the exercise, I'm going to go to chart layout, and I'm going to say I want to work on my axis titles. So look here, there's my axis titles. Once again, it might look a little different on yours, but look for layout and look for axis titles. I click on that, and I can choose my horizontal or vertical axis. I'm going to start with my vertical axis. See, right now, no axis title is checked because there is no axis title. But I'm going to choose rotated axis title. That basically means it's going to write the word sideways. So notice, as soon as I do that, now an axis title shows up called, very creatively, axis title. So I have to click inside this box. This is where it gets a little weird because you have to kind of click and drag to select everything in that box. And then I'm going to go ahead and call this percent item selected. Oh, there's that E not working again. Come on. E. Wow. Let's try that again. S. E. Percent items selected. I could be even more detailed and say from pair set or whatever, but I think percent items selected tells a story, right? And then I'm going to go back to my axis titles. I'm going to say, now I'd like to work on my horizontal axis. Notice here my only option is title below the axis because that's all you can do. Once again, axis title comes up. This is a little easier to, oh, I just moved it. Move this. When all 4 arrows show you move, and I want to go inside it, collect everything, and these are items in set. Right. Okay, so now I know from what I'm seeing here that popcorn, craisins, grapes, etc. were the items included in the set. I could even be like, I could be more to say, cancel. Sometimes if you double click it, you get a box you don't want. Items in preference. Or, you know, why don't we do this? Why don't we say, why don't we do items assessed? Okay, I like that better. So these were the items I assessed. These were the percent of time that these items were selected. Now, the only thing I don't like about this chart right now is it's sort of random in terms of the data set. In terms of, like, popcorn is first because popcorn was the item that I just randomly called item number 1, you know, and then craisins were next and so on. But to me, I like to organize and sequence my chart in a more important way. So I'm going to go back up to my table, and I'm going to go ahead and select, I'm going to actually select everything. So I clicked here, this is blank, but the reason why is because I like these numbers. I want these numbers, I want everything. So I'm not worried about this title. It's not necessary, it's not related to how each row is organized, but I'm click here and I just hold my mouse and I drag and I select all of this. This is going to give me an opportunity to sort my stat. So I go up to my menu bar above, here it is, I go to data, and I click on sort. Now it kind of defaults to, okay, here it gives me a message, and it wants to ask me, ooh, move this down. So how do I want to sort it? Well, I want to sort it by a column. Well, if I want to sort it so that I have my values, and I have a choice. I can either go from least selected to greatest selected, or greatest selected to least. I'm going to go least to greatest. I want to build. So I tell them I want to go to the column, which is my percent selected column, and I'm going to sort the values, okay, because you can do it by other features. I've never used any of those, so I don't even worry about that. And then the order, it already defaults to smallest to largest, but I could say I want to do it largest to smallest, but I like smallest to largest. Once I've got that sort organized, now watch carefully. When I click OK, you're going to see the values here will change order, and you're going to see it will automatically change the order in the chart. So watch. Here we go. Abracadabra. Boom. So what happened was it now put my items in order from least selected to most selected. And since this table, is automatically linked to this chart, it also changed the chart. So I can easily see now that M&Ms and Sun Chips had no value for my student. Craisins had a small value, but the ones that really had value were the animal crackers, popcorn, and absolutely the grapes, which was selected 100% of the time. So look, I now have a chart that has met all the things that I want a chart to meet. I can see I've got a title, so I know what this chart is about. I have axes title, so I know what is being compared to what. In this case, we're comparing the items in the assessment to the percent that they were selected. I have a scale that is a reasonable scale, goes from 0 to 100%, so it matches, the possible options that could have occurred. And really, this is a good scale because I did have 0%, I did have 100%. And then finally, I have my data organized in a meaningful way, so it's easy. It's much easier for a person to take a look at this chart and read the data. Now, once I've done this, okay, I don't need this anymore. I'm going to click down here because I have set up, this is actually our classroom observation assignment grading rubric. But let's pretend this was my report. And let's say I'm at a point where I would really like to include my chart. So I put my cursor where I want that chart. I'm going to go back over here to my Excel document. Remember, Excel and Word are connected with each other. And so I click over here and I now have highlighted this chart, and I'm going to tell it to copy. So I can go to my edit file and just click on copy. Notice you can also, at least with Mac, you can just do the Command C, which is copy. I don't know for those of you, probably similar with PCs. All right, now that I have copied this, I'm going to go over to my Word document, and I've already clicked. This is where I would like that chart to show. And now I'm going to do, and now in my Word document, I'm going to do paste. Look, and there's my paste option. And give it a minute. Look at that. There it is. It shows up. And I can play around with it. I can make it bigger or smaller. But I've now created a chart using Excel, and I have pasted it into my Word document. And that's all she wrote, folks. I hope this helps.